shut up and sit down.
Oh.
All right, is that it? Are we live?
We are live, dude. We are live.
Oh, what were we thinking?
I don't know.
Okay.
World, here we are.
Yeah.
You can see us. You can maybe even interact with us.
That's okay. Audio seems to be working, so I can turn that down so I'm not hearing myself 6 seconds from now. There we go.
All right. Well, we're still trying to test here, so bear with us. I'm sure there will be a bug or two. So,
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, we'll apologize now if anybody was getting alerts at 11:40 last night that we were live.
Yeah, we were testing some things, and some things worked kind of funny.
Done. Okay, is everything looking good on your end?
Everything is good on my end. We are broadcasting.
Okay. Okay, so hello everyone, and welcome to the 45th edition of the Dump and Chase podcast. Not only is this the draft recap show, we are also live. So I guess it would be more appropriate to say welcome to the Dump and Chase podcast live and off color. My name is Sam Olmstead, and joining me as always in the opposite corner of your screen is my co-host, and the thing I love most about him is that he is not afraid to punch someone else's kid, Mr. Justin Irwin.
I thought we weren't going to do this bit. Yeah.
You never told me to change it.
I guess. Welcome to the guy up here.
Yeah.
It's funny. We have to do this like reversed. So
yeah, we even practiced which way to point. So there we go. Down. Oh, can't even see my hand. There we go. Down there. Okay. So to kick off this show, we'll start this off. Obviously, this episode will be a little different than what you're used to. The biggest thing is that there is a live chat option below. So if you're watching along, drop a comment or a question. I'll be monitoring that as the show goes on. Yeah, I've got my laptop going for video. I have my notes on my tablet. I have the stream, and I'm monitoring the chat on my phone. I'm sure I will not be blind by the time we're done with this.
Yeah, I've got the controls here for the broadcast. I'm surrounded in cables. Yeah, fun times.
Yeah. I'm currently set up in my son's bedroom. It was the quietest spot I could get. We're doing this about 11 or 12 hours earlier than we normally would do this kind of thing. So usually everybody's in bed. So this was the quietest spot in the house I could find. Okay, so to kick off this show, we'll start with some news and notes. For starters, we put a poll out on Twitter, and you guys have spoken. So this fall, the Dump and Chase podcast will not only come to you in video form here on YouTube, there will also be an audio-only version available on your favorite podcast services. I will be getting that set up as the summer winds down. Now, the only sucky part is that there is another hockey show called the Dump and Chase podcast. It's a New York Islanders fan podcast that is horrifically sporadic in releasing episodes. But they are listed on most of the podcast apps and services, so we might have to tweak the name a little bit. Most likely Dump and Chase Fan, PHAN podcast. But we will put out the full details once we get that up and running, so make sure to stay tuned for that. I want to make a point. We're not abandoning YouTube and what we do here. Justin does some amazing work with our graphics. It's a great option for when you're at home. It's just that we've gotten a good bit of feedback from people that like to listen to the show while they're driving, and a video format is kind of moot in that situation.
Okay, yeah. So, I guess it's not a whole lot of extra work, so.
Nah. In other news, it's been a good time for former Phantoms in the NHL. A little while back, we saw Ivan Prosvetov make his NHL debut with the Arizona Coyotes. We also saw Brett Murray make his debut for the Buffalo Sabres for their final 2 games of the season against the Pittsburgh Penguins. And then once the playoffs get started, we have former Phantom Ryan Lundberg score an overtime goal for the Florida Panthers. 4 days later, Kyle Connor from Winnipeg scored the overtime winner that clinched their series with Vancouver. And I mean, that goal was special. I mean, it sent Wayne Gretzky running straight out of Vancouver and right to the TNT analysis desk.
Ooh, yeah. Yeah, when you're taking a job with TNT, I mean, I realize that, they got to do broadcast deal and everything, but yeah, yeah, things might not be going so well up in Edmonton.
So some USHL news. Of course, as I'm sure you've heard by now, the Chicago Steel won their second Clark Cup, beating the Fargo Force 3-1. Fargo took game 1. They shut out the Steel 3-0, and we thought, okay, this is going to be a series. Turns out, no. Chicago won the next 3, outscoring Fargo 14-3 in those 3 games. Do you know who I feel most bad for in that whole situation? Chicago's coach, whatever his name is.
It's not Ryan Hardy, yeah.
A lot of talk about Ryan Hardy's roster, Hardy's team, Hardy's boys. I mean, myself and apparently many others don't even know who Chicago's coach is. I mean, that's got to feel real good for him.
Yeah, well, maybe one of these years the anonymity will be desirable. Turnover, roster turnover can be pretty brutal some years.
Yeah.
But yeah, so congratulations, I guess, to the Steel.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
And finally, and this was very recent here, the USHL announced that the Fall Classic will be returning to kick off the 21-22 season. And as always, fans of Western Conference teams are thrilled.
Oh, boy. Yeah. Because they obviously don't get enough preseason events out there. Obviously they're deprived of things. So yeah.
You listen to the fans talk. It's like they're never going to be happy unless the thing is literally held in their backyard. So I mean, good for us, I guess. I mean, I'm not going to complain. It's a short trip for us, but
yeah. I mean, it's mostly for scouting. A lot of it's not really meant to be a fan friendly event. Fans can make it. It's good, but yeah.
It's a 45-minute drive from Youngstown, and you don't even really see that many Youngstown fans there.
So yeah.
And it's a quick hop, skip, and a jump for us, but oh well, what are you gonna do? But thankfully, again, a more return to normalcy. The Fall Classic will be returning this probably the end of September, I would imagine, beginning of October.
Yeah, I think it's the September 27th, I think, was the start.
Alrighty, so a thing happened a couple days ago. That thing was the USHL Draft. After I guess we'll call it a down season for the Phantoms, this was a nice little palate cleanser, wasn't it?
Yeah. At least it's something, we can look forward to, see how the team is going to start to rebuild. So, we'll get into the nitty-gritty here in a few minutes, but it definitely was a little bit of catharsis after last season.
So some of the talk going into this draft was wondering how much pressure head coach and GM Brad Patterson felt, as the Phantoms have really, when you think about it, been in a 3-year slide since going to the Clark Cup finals. The season after that trip with a team that many argued was better than the previous season's roster, got bounced by Dubuque in the first round. The next season that was eventually canceled, the Phantoms were hanging on to that last playoff spot by the skin of their teeth. They may have gotten in. They may have just missed out. The world will never know. And this past season, by February, we were already looking at the number 1 pick in the draft. So USHL teams have up and down years. Success isn't long-term in this league. Even the mighty Chicago Hardies are going to come back down to earth at some point. But I will say for, a lot of the criticism, and some of that came from us, Patterson came out firing on all cylinders in phase one.
Yeah. He's got some scouting resources now, I guess. According to pretty much every analysis, both professional and amateur, we hit this one out of the park.
Okay, and before we move on, I'll just point out real quick, it looks like we have a handful of people that have jumped onto the live stream now, so welcome to the show. If you missed the beginning, there is a live chat, so if you have questions, anything like that, put them in there, any comments. I'll be looking over sporadically every now and then. Okay, so let's see. I'm not even going to try with the username, but one question we have here, I'll pose to you, Justin. Just quite simply, do you think the Phantoms will be much better this upcoming season?
Well, I put a joking reply in. I don't think we can get any worse. It's hard to say. We got the phase one draft went real well. We'll get into phase two after we discuss that. That's where the meat of this season probably will come from. It's anybody's guess this year on returning players. I expect we will be significantly better.
And it's like we just said a minute ago, you're going to have up and down years. You have to remember, in the last 12 years, Chicago is responsible for one of the best records in USHL history. They're also responsible for one of the worst records in USHL history in the last 12 years. So, let's just hope this past season was the bottom of the barrel. We hit rock bottom there, and then it's nowhere to go but up from there. Okay, so for this recap, we're going to focus more on phase one than phase two. We'll explain a little more in depth later on in the show, but the line you typically hear is that phase one picks are kids that you may see in a year or two, not really something you're going to see right away. But I will point out last season, the Phantoms had 9 phase one picks, 6 of which we saw in some capacity. Of course, the first round pick, Jack Larrigan and Kent Isagai, they played the entire season with the Phantoms, made the roster out of camp. We also saw Tyler Catalano, Lucas Clem, Miles Gunty, Mario DiMaggio. They played a handful of affiliate games. Then you had Jake Furlong and Sam Oliver, both Canadians. They both ended up opting for Quebec Major Junior. And Tyler Isles, I believe it's pronounced, was the odd man out from the Maryland U15s. There was a lot to like from the affiliates. And while Isles didn't called up, he did wear an A for Team Maryland. So, whatever the scenario was that he didn't get called up, he's still going to be somebody to watch for on this roster. But yeah, this year's crop of phase one picks, this may end up being Patterson's best work to date. I was following the scouts at Neutral Zone's live stream during the draft, along with many scouts and hockey writers on Twitter. And the unanimous belief was that Youngstown, hands down, had the best phase one draft of the entire league. Now, I will point out we do have some scouting notes on each player, and most of these will come from Neutral Zone. There is also some bits from Puck Preps and Gabe Foley from RecruitScouting.com. Most of what we have is from Neutral Zone. If not, we'll say so, but we don't want to have to say Neutral Zone, 1,000 times in this episode. Okay, so we'll get to the first overall pick in phase one, which there were rumors the day before that the Phantoms were shopping around that pick, which I think is kind of be expected when you're in a position to pick first. Just kind of putting out feelers, just see, what's available, or, teams reaching out to you, seeing maybe what it would take to get that pick. But in the end, it amounted to nothing. So with the first overall pick in the Phase 1 draft, the Phantoms took the consensus top 05 birth year available, William Whitelaw from Shattuck St. Mary's Prep. Now, this was a kid who, as a 15-year-old, as a high school sophomore, was playing with the prep team, what they refer to as a double underager. And he put up, I believe it was like 33 points in 37 games. So not only was he playing with much older competition, he was thriving with that competition.
Yeah.
According to Neutral Zone, their notes on him: plays fast, has a high motor, he's aggressive, thrives in high pressure situations, very easily could play at the USHL level tomorrow if he so chooses. And that last part, that was basically, he was at the NTDP camp for the under 17 team. And for reasons that nobody can seem to explain, he wasn't taken by Team USA. And the word at the time was that if he didn't make the NTDP roster, he was going to go back to Shattuck St. Mary for his junior year. And then there was talk that he may be signing a tender with Tri-City. And if that fell through, then he was going to go back to Shattuck St. Mary. Now the first overall pick in the Phase 1 draft. So, and I pointed out to you, and your take on that was...
Yeah, I mean, these kids, most of them have advisors who are directing them. So he's probably going to listen to whatever advice his advisor gives him if he has one. I'm sure his advisor is not going to tell him to skip the Phantoms tryout camp, keep his options open. Shattuck St. Mary is obviously one of the top prep schools for hockey. Sidney Crosby went there. Jack Johnson. Oh, wait, hold on. Sorry.
Nah.
But anyway, man, I'm sorry.
Has the past week not been bad enough for Penguins fans? You had to bring up Jack Johnson.
Yeah. Yes, I did. Okay. But yeah. So anyway, yeah, he'll listen to what his advisor tells him. And, he'll go from there. I'm sure, going back, playing with his friends means something. It certainly does in Minnesota. But, we'll see.
Okay. Do you want to go ahead with the next pick?
Chase Pirtle, forward from the North Jersey Avalanche, 16U, which I believe won the USA Hockey national title. He's listed as being a big, strong North-South type player. Will put his shoulder down and drive towards the net. And seems to hold his own, real comfortable playing with older competition. So all stuff that sounds like it would lead to him being a candidate for playing this season.
Okay, so going to round 3, the 31st pick in the draft, the Phantoms took Brandon Svoboda, from a forward from the Pittsburgh Penguin Elite 15s. This analysis is from Puck Preps. They said makes powerful drives to the net. His elusive maneuvers and puck handling enable him to not only create opportunities in the home plate area, but be the one to finish the ones that are driven by his line mates. And I will point out at this point, I highly recommend you go and take a look at Gabe Foley on Twitter. I believe it's at NHL Foley. If you read through his tweets about the Phantoms picks in Phase 1, by the time you're done reading through them, you're probably going to need a cigarette. He is with Whitelaw, Pirtle, and Svoboda, these first 3 picks, it seemed like his head was about to explode. That this was, how the Phantoms came out at the gate. But okay, so Justin, moving on to round 4.
We've got Kyle Kim, D-man out of Detroit, Honey Baked, 15U. Smooth skater, very good on the breakout. Does not expose the puck to the forecheck. Something we probably could use a lot of there. Puck preps, they also list that he has a cannon of a shot from the blue line. So, it would be nice for us to get a little bit more offense out of our blue line. So definitely something I look forward to seeing here, hopefully soon.
Okay, so round 5, pick 61 is Daniel Johnson, defenseman from the Chicago Young Americans 15U. Chicago Young Americans, that was a squad. As the draft went on, you saw quite a few kids from that program going. Very good season this year. Neutral Zone had Daniel Johnson listed, multi-skilled defenseman, great shot, big hitter, high hockey IQ, great positional awareness. Very rarely will find him out of position on the ice. And as a defenseman, I would almost say that's almost number one you're looking for. Especially with the amount of blue line giveaways we saw this past season, leading to odd man breaks the other way. Okay, so Justin, round 6.
Okay, yeah, I knew you were going to leave this one for me.
Okay, do you want me to say the name?
Yeah, if you can.
Okay, Christopher's Giannis Kumans.
That's how I was going to, yeah.
Okay,
that's how I was going to say it.
Christopher's Giannis Krumans. There we go.
Yeah. Yeah, elite prospects didn't have a pronunciation on him, so
no.
Yeah. New Jersey Rockets, 15U. So Gabe Foley lists him as being one of the most underrated players in the draft. So that's kind of high praise there. Great in front of the net and more of a scorer than a playmaker, which again, something we really kind of want to see is somebody who will finish and not try to set up another pass.
Okay, so round 7, pick 91. This was an interesting one. Excuse me. That was Ty Henricks, forward from Shattuck St. Mary's 16U. Starting around the 4th round, Neutral Zone was kept bringing him up. They had him as a top 50 prospect. They were really kind of besides themselves that he hadn't been selected. But yeah. So, I mean, that was the 4th round. He was taken in the 7th round, and there was almost a sense of relief in the room from them once he was picked. So by their eyes, this was a great pickup for Youngstown in the 7th round. Says he moves well for a bigger player. He's always around the net, always around the puck. He has the ability to make quick decisions. Again, by Neutral Zone scouting, he was a top 50 prospect. Okay, so now, Justin, you've got round 8.
Okay, yeah. Coming in at pick number 105, Justin Ncaa, forward from the Pittsburgh Penguins Elite 15. Neutral Zone says high ceiling player, can help win games without scoring. Great speed, shooting skill, great passer, loves to crash the net. And I believe this one was kind of a favorite of one of our favorites, Ian Moran.
Yes. Yeah. So, Ian Moran was speaking very highly of him.
Yeah. And, we both are big fans of Ian Moran, not just for on the ice, but yeah, he does a lot of really good work off the ice nowadays. So yeah, that's a good praise there. So looking forward to seeing him too.
Okay, so round 9, pick 121. That is Benjamin Poitras. Maybe.
Piotras. Yeah.
This is the fun part because there are no pronunciation guides and we get to mangle these things. Forward from the Rochester Coalition 16U. Plays aggressive, selfless player. One point they really wanted to make in a game that they had seen him play, Neutral Zone did. They said he is more than willing to take a hit to make a play, which that may be the first time I've ever heard that type of a description about a player, that he's willing to take a hit to make a play. So that one kind of caught me because that's honestly that's a description I've never heard before.
Well, at least not at this level. So yeah,
No.
yeah. If a kid on a 16U team, if he's going to stand in there, take the hit to make a pass or a play, yeah, that says a lot about him. So
all right, and you got round 10.
Yep. Pick 136. I'm pretty sure I can get this name right. Dylan McFadden.
There we go.
A forward from the Buffalo Junior Sabres, 15U. Explosive shooter, very skilled one-on-one, great separation. That's coming from neutral zone, who had him as 73rd ranked. So another sleeper here. Puck Preps says raw, technically skilled forward who is capable of bullying his way through opponents' attempts to barricade him out of their zone. I love that description. There's nothing about that description that I do not like. Put a little polish on that raw skill, and you might have yourself a solid forward.
Yeah. Let's see. Get caught back up in my notes here. I'm on my tablet that doesn't allow tabs, so I got to keep hopping back and forth between things. Okay. Yeah, so those were the phase 1 picks. Now we'll take a look at a handful of the phase 2. Now that the reason more that we'll focus on phase 1 than phase 2 is especially this year, we have a little bit of a different scenario going on than in the past. And that basically comes down to the NCAA and them allowing athletes an extra year of eligibility due to a lot of schools, conferences shutting down last season. And again, we'll get into that a little more heavily. So it may be a case that there might be more odd men out in phase 2 than there have been in past years. Again, the Phantoms had the first overall pick, but ended up trading it to Dubuque. Youngstown dropped to the 5 spot in the first round. Also picked up a phase 2 4th round pick next year, and picked up forward Ryan Alexander from the Saints. Ryan played in 37 games last season with Dubuque, put up 2 goals of 14 assists. He was a +9. So still, I believe he's a 2002, so he'll be so yeah, this will be a 19-year-old coming in, has some USHL experience. So now the Phantoms have the 5th overall pick in the phase 2 draft. The Phantoms selected Chris Hedden of the Shreveport Mudbugs from the North American Hockey League. That just Mudbugs for
Yeah, I work with some people down in that area. I should give them some heck for that.
Honestly, I think that's one of my more favorite team names. The Shreveport Mudbugs.
Well, I think they play in the same conference of the Null as the Odessa Jackalopes. So, I mean, the Mudbugs versus the Jackalopes. That is epic.
Let's see here. Chris Hedden, Neutral Zone has him as a kid who's smart with the puck, plays physical, a great passer, can run the power play. He is, of course, a defenseman. I guess I should have brought up at the beginning, but yeah. Apparently, they really liked him as the quarterback on the power play. We're going to be bouncing around a little bit here. One thing we wanted to do. The Phantoms had a couple of trades last season, and, you'll hear, this player was traded for this player and there were picks involved. So what we wanted to do is a couple of these trades where picks were involved. We wanted to point out what those picks materialized into. So the Phantoms had the 10th pick in round 1. And this was the first part of the Ben Schoen trade with Tri-City. So if you want to go ahead and take this one.
Yeah, we got Morgan Winters, a center out of the Kenai River Brown Bears of the Null. Listed as a very high-paced, fast with the puck player, gets to the net. Seems pretty straightforward. We'll see how that turns out. Legitimate prospect. So, we got picks and, we'll see.
Okay. Now the other pick in that in the Ben Schoen trade with Tri-City, that was the round 4, 54th pick overall. That was defenseman Michael Fisher, out of St. Mark's School, USHS Prep. Plays smart, moves the puck well, better skater and athlete than given credit for. Listed as a big hitter, which is always nice to have.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting. We out of that we got both a forward and a defenseman. So
yeah. And I believe I almost want to say another 4th round pick next season from that trade as well, I want to say.
Yeah.
But yeah, so again, you get these trades, a player is traded for picks. So in this case with the Ben Schoen trade, that was what ended up being the return for that. Another trade going down to the bottom of the list. This was a 9th round pick that was picked up from Muskegon. That was the John Larkin trade before last season started. So yeah, Phantoms picked up that extra 9th round pick. That ended up going to forward Grant Porter from the New Hampshire Junior Monarchs of the NCDC. Listed as a smart, skilled player, great passer. Unfortunately, at this point, Neutral Zone was really starting to wear down with their descriptions. They had been live streaming for 6-7 hours over 2 days. You could tell they were getting tired. The descriptions and scouting reports started getting quicker and quicker.
I was gonna say, and at this, depth level, there's, not so much, you can really say about every player. It gets a little repetitive. You know, you can only scout so much, and so many players. So there's always going to be a few that don't get a whole lot of viewing time, and so we'll see. Sometimes you get a sleeper out of those guys. And I'd like to point out past couple of seasons with the NCDC, which was kind of a contentious development a few years ago when they came out. You are starting to see a few of those players making it to the USHL level. So that's kind of something to watch there. They might not be getting as much scouting as other leagues. They're kind of tier 2, kind of tier 3. So,
well, the thing you run into at the USHL draft, a lot of the people who scout these kids, they're more scouting, and commenting on the draft and things like that. They're more scouting youth hockey than they, maybe they are juniors. Certainly scouting youth hockey a lot more than they're scouting juniors. So maybe they're just, isn't, especially when you get into these phase 2 kids who are 18, 19 years old, maybe haven't been, scouted in a while by some of these, organizations, or maybe just not scouted nearly as often as maybe as they were when they were in youth. But another kid I want to bring up, we're not going to go through all of these, but one I wanted to bring up, this was one Neutral Zone was very, very high on. This was another Ian Moran was very high on this kid. The 9th round pick, 123rd overall, Brendan Gorman from St. Sebastian's School, USHS Prep. Basically, Ian Moran talking about him said, high motor, plays quick. This was a line I loved. Can get up the ice without having to cheat.
Yeah. So obviously raw speed is important, some guys, they get those breakaways, but they're kind of poaching up ice a little bit, starting the breakout early, which we've seen that leave guys out of place a few times in the past, and we've been burnt. So, definitely something to keep an eye on. So we'll see. again, we really love Ian Moran and his scouting. So,
And well, this is the part here you can tell this is Ian Moran's analysis. Never out of place, has a wicked shot. So
smartest player on the ice. Yeah. So
yes, he was described as a very highly cerebral player on the ice. They thought that was a very good pickup for the Phantoms, all the way up in the 9th round. So
yeah,
um,
the later rounds of phase 2 could be pretty interesting. You'll get some sleeper players out of there, and this is why you draft at least to the 9th or 10th round and hope.
well, that was and we talked a lot about that a couple years ago. Went through the entire phase 1 draft, went through a good bulk of the phase 2, and then Yusaku Ando comes off the board.
Yeah. So
he was a late he was a late phase 2 pick. Was somebody that was completely passed over in phase 1. Was a late round phase 2 pick. He makes the roster out of camp. And now, for all intents and purposes, he's a fan favorite in Youngstown.
Yeah. So, it was, one of those things that we saw. Then we went back and started looking, trying to find some video, and it's like, wow, this guy might have some serious skills, and just because that's he didn't get scouted as much, or maybe size, or I hate to say it, maybe some scouts just glossed over him because Japanese born, he's not going to play a physical North American game.
Okay, so we'll get into here to a second. It's the bane of our existence. After the draft, people start asking questions about roster predictions. We'll get into that here in a little bit. One thing, as always, there is, no matter the scenario, there is uncertainty as to what next season's roster could look like. Again, things we're going to talk about here in a little bit, just different little factors that are added in for this year. What we know for sure is that these are 5 players who will not be returning to the Phantoms next season because they're just too darn old now. 20 years old, they're grizzled USHL veterans. They're on their way out, collecting their pension and moving on to college. So let's start with, I guess, Justin, your final thoughts on Georgi Merkulov, who will be leaving Youngstown, taking off for the bright lights of Columbus, Ohio, and Ohio State University.
What can you say about Georgie that hasn't already, been said a million times? Oh wait, it bears mentioning 1,000,001.
Yeah,
just incredible hockey IQ. He's got all the skill sets that you really need to be successful. And he's got the motivation, the drive. There's really not a whole lot of weak spots. Maybe he, can learn to, I guess, distribute the puck a little bit more. Maybe work on his defense a little bit, but he's obviously a high skill set scorer. Going into Ohio State, I'm sure they're ready to work with him and get him to the next level. Really an easy guy to work with.
Okay, so next up, Will Hillman, going on to Minnesota State. What's your eulogy on Will's time with the Phantoms?
He comes in a bad season. I thought he played well. I can't really fault any of the individual players. But I think, he'll maybe, take a year or two to probably get into the full lineup, regular ice time. That's kind of how the NCAA goes. They'll want him to probably work out a little bit, train. But yeah, I thought, he played a solid game, and he should be fine.
Okay, next up, we have Jack Malone, who will be going back to Cornell University, had left the Phantoms, gone to Cornell, played a season there, and then the Ivy League shut down due to COVID. And I will say, for a Youngstown fan, after what was just a crappy summer in general with everything that was going on, to see the lineup released and Jack Malone's name on it, that was an incredibly welcome surprise. And he was someone the entire season that did not disappoint. When it's all said and done, hands down, he will probably go down as one of the top 5 Phantoms of all time. So absolutely great to get to see him come back for one more year.
Yeah. And I got to give a clap here to the Phantoms organization for keeping that under wraps until,
Yeah.
yeah, we were blown away.
Yeah.
Yeah. And obviously, the year in Cornell that he spent, he came back way, way stronger, faster. And yeah, he's another one of those guys, a cerebral player, very high hockey IQ. So we're going to be keeping an eye on Cornell this year. Dark horse to make the Frozen Four.
Then next up, we have probably the greatest name in hockey. I don't care what Chicago says, with Gunnar Wolf-Fontaine. In my opinion, the greatest name in hockey, Riley Funk. The horrible thing about last season ending, there was, several players that were going to be moving on that we really didn't get a chance to say goodbye to. It was just the season was ended and that was it. Of course, Trevor Kuntar moving on, didn't, all the years, the time he put in at Youngstown, we didn't get to say goodbye to him. Riley was another one. I was not ready to give up Funky Town. Emotionally, it was not in the cards for me. Was, as far as we knew, was supposed to be moving on to Northern Michigan University. Whatever happened there, he ended up coming back for one more season. So, at least for me, I got the happy ending. As anybody who listens to this know, I've been fangirling over Riley Funk for the past 2 years. So, just incredible player on the ice, incredible leader. Really good on the microphone too. He was the color guy with Matt Lipsack for a couple games there towards the end of the season. It just seems like everything this kid touches turns to gold, and it's really exciting just to see what kind of success this kid is going to have going forward, because he has the work ethic for it. He has the ability for it. So,
and when he goes to Northern Michigan and gets the NCAA treatment, they'll have him in the workout room. Can you imagine him bigger, stronger, and faster? That's going to be scary. And I don't know if they have any sort of broadcast communication classes there. Yeah. So.
And then the last one was with the Phantoms this past season, Matthias Scholl. He's heading on to Bemidji State University up in Minnesota. I'll tell you what, the results weren't there that you would have liked. But I would say probably the most entertaining goaltender to watch that the Phantoms have had since Ivan Kolbakov.
Yeah, and incredible athleticism. So yeah, just simply fun to watch. Win or lose, always competing. And I've said this a couple of times. If he'd had a few more inches to his height, we would be talking about maybe him as a overage draft pick this season, as well as he played in net. And yeah, the tend to the bigger, larger goaltenders, and some of these shorter guys get overlooked, and there was no fault in his game.
No.
Maybe some rebound control, but again, that's something they'll work on in college, and I have a feeling we'll see him as a walk-on with at least some AHL team, maybe higher.
Okay, so this is our third draft recap show in the podcast history. And again, the thing we always get asked, at least after the first two, is the question that always comes up. Who do you think will make the roster? So right off the bat, we're going to give you the Matt Lipsack disapproving head tilt. Remember, that's to the left. So there we go.
And the long answer to the question is no. If anybody reads the hockey fan blog, I never ever give predictions on upcoming rosters. I don't do it. It's misleading at best.
Now, we'll opine back and forth with each other, but never nothing that will publish to the outside
an individual
world.
Player will be like, yeah, I think this guy's going to make the roster. Onda was, obviously one.
Yeah.
But we don't even list that as being a prediction. That's just kind of our geeking out.
But yeah, going into the summer after hockey season, you have, the needs of colleges are going to factor in. You're going to have a kid who's going to end up getting drafted by multiple leagues, American, Canadian, and then has to sit down and weigh that decision. Maybe we'll figure he might have a better chance elsewhere. We've kind of brought this up every now and then. We'll go into a little bit more about it now. The big thing is the Ncaa adding a year of eligibility for players based on what went on last season. Not everybody got to play, whether it was their choice or not. Where this is going to be a problem is kids right now, 18, 19 years old, that we assume would be going on to college. Now with that extra year of eligibility, that takes roster spots away at the college level. So maybe there won't be those spots to fill by incoming freshmen, incoming sophomores. So one thing that we're going to see this upcoming season is more, last season it was more of an influx of Canadian players coming in due to all of Canadian hockey being shut down the way it was. This season, I think we're going to see an influx of college players coming back to the USHL, just because with that extra year of eligibility, there's not going to be as many roster spots available. So, there's still USHL eligible. I see a lot of those kids, a lot of kids being stuck in that scenario and end up coming back to the USHL next year.
Yeah. And it was a blanket policy. Many believe was kind of overreaching. I tend to agree with that. Most people do.
Wait, most people agree with you?
For a change, yes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I'm gonna write that down.
Yeah. But yeah, and it's something that's going to affect the development process, not just this season, next probably, couple seasons. So we'll see where the dice land on this, but we're definitely going to see a lot less players going to the NCAA, at least this season. And another thing that I have to throw out there would be the closing of at least one D1 school, Robert Morris University, which you have a Zoom call with your staff and your players, and just drop a bomb in the middle of the week on them like that, and then post a tweet and everybody moves on now. So yeah, you're going to have displaced players there, both the men's and women's programs. And yeah, it's just not a good situation. So, there will be another, 30 roster spots that don't get.
I encourage people to, because I'm not going to look it up. I'm not going to read it here. I'm not even going to dignify it. But I do encourage you to go on your own and read the university's statement on why they felt they had to cancel the men and women's hockey program. It is some of the most like ridiculous, like business school garbage you will ever read in your life.
It's
And
insulting.
when you read it, it doesn't even make sense as to why they would cut hockey.
Especially, with the strides that both the men's and women's programs. We focus mostly on, the men's program, but they had an excellent NCAA women's program as well. And I mean, this was a program that had been making huge strides. The men's were in the top 20 last year, I believe. It's just I believe the women's made it to the deep into the finals the past 2 seasons. It's ridiculous is obviously one word, insulting, and I would throw out probably stupid.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, there is some good news for the league and the Eastern Conference in that Madison and Cedar Rapids will be returning this upcoming season. So, with that, even if the USHL decides to keep things more in conference this year, or if they're just going to open it up to how the scheduling normally has in the past. So, if it ends up being that they decide to kind of schedule everybody more closer to their conference, now there's 2 more teams added into the mix, or added back into the mix, I should say, in the Eastern Conference. So we're not playing 12 games in Muskegon and 12 games in Chicago. And
So I never thought I would say this, but I'm really glad to see Madison.
Yeah.
I mean, there was, Cedar Rapids has been around the league. They're kind of an old rival. So, and we weren't really doubting their comeback. Madison, another story. But so hopefully going forward, that program, will be improving as well. They're making some changes internally. So maybe we won't be laughing at them so much.
Oh, we don't have a right to laugh at anybody right now.
No. Well, yes, we did. Yes, we did with Madison.
Well, yeah. Now the unfortunate thing is, especially with Cedar Rapids coming back, that means the Phantoms will have to say goodbye to Bennett Zemelik and Grant Hindman. We think. Both were selected by the Phantoms off of Cedar Rapids roster in last year's dispersal draft. And at the conclusion of this season, both would be returning to Cedar Rapids. I say we think just because right now the USHL website, Bennett Zemelik is listed as a Cedar Rapids player. Grant Hindman is not. He is still listed as a Phantom. So it either boils down to the league just didn't update his page. Maybe the Phantoms worked out a trade with Cedar Rapids to keep him. He plans to go off to college, and just at that, no one at USHL cared to update his page. Right now, we don't know. The assumption is that if they're not going off to college, that they will be returning to Cedar Rapids next season.
So, and the best of luck to him. I know some people out in Cedar Rapids were big fans of his, so they'll be glad to get him back and see some hockey this season. Again, we're really glad. That's a very good organization within the league. And we need all the stops on the bus trips that we can get. So, glad to see these 2 teams coming back. We've seen teams go dark before and not come back. So this is definitely positive.
And those were Eastern Conference teams, so it's that the conference has already taken a hit in the last 6-7 years. So
yeah. So might be some of the more brutal road trips take their toll financially. A lot of the issues have been arena related. So
yeah.
But so anyway, we're glad they didn't fold.
Okay, so as far as the summer schedule with concern to the podcast, for sure we'll be back in a month to recap tryout camp, as we're both planning on attending. We seem to be a ways apart on what constitutes acceptable lodging.
I'm not staying at the hotel that I stayed at the last time.
I'm not sleeping in a tent at a campground. So,
you remember the scene from Scarface where they the guy, they cut him up with the chainsaw in the shower?
Yeah,
I know where that shower curtain ended up.
Oh, okay.
It's in Washington, PA, at a hotel. I won't name it. I don't want warrants served next door while I'm leaving.
Yeah, I don't do outdoors very well. Let's put it that way. If it bites, it will find me at nighttime.
But you suggested sharing a room with me. Yeah.
I will put that curtain up between us. If we're sharing a hotel room, there will be dual beds. We're not. I don't know how your spooning game is, and I don't care. There will be separate beds. There will be some kind of divider between them.
You've seen planes, trains, and automobiles, I assume.
Yeah.
Those aren't pillows.
But I will take that risk as opposed to sleeping in a tent in a sleeping bag. My back would not allow that. And just everything about me would not allow that. So we'll just leave it at that. Anyways, but after that, any sudden breaking news, we say that every summer and it never happens. So I don't know. Just kind of cover our bases. I'll say it, but we've said it for 2 summers now and it hasn't happened. But yeah, any sudden breaking news, we have our breakaway format, just kind of short, sweet, to the point, lot shorter episodes just to cover 1 or 2 topics. We could break that out if need be. Maybe some new interviews. If there's anyone you would like to hear us talk to, let us know. But other than that, we should have things in full swing once we get into September and, leading up to the new season.
Yeah. Looking forward to the Fall Classic. Really missed seeing that last year. Considering how at least 3 out of 4 years I've come back with a severe case of bronchitis and unknown ailment. I don't care what the mask mandates are. I'm still wearing a mask when I go there. Scouts and kids from all over the country. Yeah, flying in, touching things.
Yeah, touching things.
Not a lot of room sometimes in the little arenas. Yeah.
Okay, so that is all the time we have for this episode. For anyone who doesn't know or didn't hear earlier in the episode, all the graphics you see in this live stream are thanks to my partner in crime here, as well as just us being able to do this live stream. A ton of work went into this. Again, if you got alerts last night at like 11:30, we apologize. We were running some tests trying to make sure we had all the bugs out so we could do this.
And there were some bugs.
There were some bugs. Also, once again, we want to say thanks to Miss Raylan Glenn for the digital cartoon versions you see of us on the screen. Ray got these to us almost 10 months ago. We've had them earmarked for this kind of show. It just took us forever to finally get to use them. But once again, I mean, she's an incredible artist. We owe her so much gratitude just for the work, what she's done for us and helping us out and everything like that. But yeah, just incredible artist. But Ray, thank you again. As always, the Dump and Chase podcast is brought to you by hockeyfan.com. We are also syndicated by ohiohockeydigest.com in the Phantom section. If you haven't yet, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Twitter and Facebook. The links, I believe, should be in the description. I haven't looked.
Yeah, I think I got them in there. That's
Okay.
hard. I'll go back and edit if not.
Okay. And again, keep an ear to the ground, as an audio-only option of the podcast will be coming this fall. So thank you, everyone, for joining us for this live broadcast. And, don't forget to tell your friends about us. So for Justin Irwin, I'm Sam Olmstead. This is the Dump and Chase podcast. We'll talk with you all again soon, and let's go Phantoms.
Good night, Gracie. Let's do that hockey. Roll credits.